Hello and welcome to the Patient First Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Bryan Laskin, where we, of course, are looking to increase the influence of today's engaged dentists. And today, I'm excited. We have a great guest. It's Edwin Dearborn, Edwin's been featured in Entrepreneur, Social Media Today, the Orange County Registry, and other national media outlets. Edwin's formerly educated in marketing and public relations in Hollywood, California in the 1990s, and has coached thousands of CEOs and business leaders in the United States and Europe. He's also the author of Power Branding Secrets and 3 Degrees of Separation. Learn how to build powerful connections in business. Edwin, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Well, yeah, and we were talking just a little bit before we started the podcast. I'm excited to hear what we're going to be talking about today. So I want to get right into it. We're talking about the 3 R's of business growth: referrals, reactivation, and reviews. And, I guess you work with a lot of not just CEOs and business leaders, but dentists particularly too, correct?
Yeah, dentists, chiropractors, orthopedic surgeons, CPAs, all types of medical and financial type practices.
So how did you fall into the world of helping, in particular, small medical practices like dental practices, even large dental practices are actually small medical, like healthcare professionals, into helping them grow their businesses?
Great question. I was working for an advertising agency in Newport Beach, California in the late 80s. And I met a gentleman at my church who had a growing chiropractic practice. And we became friends. And he said, what would it take for me to get you to be my marketing director for my chiropractic practice? And because I want to open multiple practices. So, he retained my services. I moved over. And that was in 1988 to between 1988 and 1990. And I grew his practice from 20 new patients a month to about 80 to 100. And we secured our second practice 2 years later. And we also took the numbers up to that level. So and this is old school marketing back in the late 80s. This was before the internet. This is out doing, mall shows and, hustling and postcards and patient events and, referral marketing, anything that would work, we pretty much tried. So having those couple of years of really cutting my teeth, and then I found that the principles that we use for chiropractic would work for dental or medical. A patient's a patient and people want healthcare. So those fundamentals of marketing pretty much transcend most practices and businesses.
Well, and I agree. And I think that in addition to the fact that healthcare practice, a patient is whether they're looking out for chiropractic services or dental services, there's nuances there, but from a marketing perspective, those are relatively easy to adjust. Yeah. I also feel like you said, you did the old school hustling, going to malls. I think that a lot of dentists out there today are looking for a new way to do things, and there's plenty of new ways to market. However, humans of today are the same as humans from 1,000 years ago for the most part. Our biology is the same. Yep. We just have new tools to be more effective at reaching them. Do you agree?
Absolutely. So the human psychology and what makes people know, like, and trust us is the same that it's always been. We're a tribal type beast. We love to associate with people that share our values or share our various psychological markers, if you will. And we've got these little antennae to go, I kind of like this guy. So it's really what marketing is how do I communicate and engage with people in a genuine fashion that makes people go, this is the person that I want to have help me with whatever challenge I have currently. So those are universal, but now we have to craft it into more of a digital sphere, which it's still the same thing. It's still, how do I know and like and trust you? But now we're doing it through Yelp and Facebook and LinkedIn and email and online reviews and social media posts.
That's a big focus of my book and the podcast, the Patient First Manifesto, and this podcast, is that I think that when we're talking about marketing to patients and increasing trust, it's very similar to meeting people where they are, right? And I think that we have to expand the definition of quality of care to include reaching people that don't normally reach out to our services. In dentistry, that's 50% of adults that don't go to a dentist regularly. If
Right.
we do not increase the trust of the industry that we are in, increase the value of our services, we are going to lose to the soda industry and the other negative influences in the patient's eyes. So I just want to point out today that what we're talking about, increasing your practice, yes, it's great to grow your business, but that's how we're going to improve people's oral health. For the dentists out there listening that are thinking, oh, we're talking about selling dentistry, we are talking about how do we actually get people to elevate their oral health by seeking our services. That's the way I would look at
I agree. I think any successful business is always purpose driven.
it. Great way
First
of
and
saying that.
foremost. First and foremost, you've got to be purpose driven. If you're money motivated, you're not going to be able to serve as many people. And it's interesting that when somebody really addresses their purpose and communicates from a high purpose of care and humanity and welfare for the majority, the money just comes as a natural result because you're operating at a higher level of service to mankind. And people pick that up. They can tell. People aren't as stupid as you think they are. If you're money motivated, they're going to feel that. But if you're community driven, if you're service driven, they're also going to feel that. So I believe that's the core of any success. And when you really have that and you create great content around your culture, that's what really resonates with people. And that's how you attract the most amount of attention.
Totally agree. And I know you're obviously a big fan, as I am, of generating referrals. I think referrals are, in my opinion, the most effective way to quickly grow your practice if you have with new patients. If you have
Absolutely.
an established business of any, even a small practice is going to grow faster. If you try to find more customers like the customers you have, or more patients like you have. And I know that you have segmented referrals, which I would love to hear more about. So could you kind of talk about your perspective with referrals?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago when we had the whole shutdown, I became very interested in referrals because our normal ways of marketing were shut down for many months. So I went back old school and went, referrals. So I watched a lot of YouTube videos, bought a bunch of books, and studied word of mouth and referrals, and I found it actually is a science. There's a science to referrals. But in all of that study, I found out that there was an important blind spot that I needed to blow away. And that is referrals is viewed as a defensive action, meaning, yes, I'll accept them, but I don't really have any offensive plays to instigate them, to create them at will. What if we could somehow find that referral knob and turn it on and generate more? Look, for most dental practices, an additional 6 to 8 referrals makes a big difference on the bottom line. It doesn't take many referrals to have an impact financially on your pocketbook. So it isn't that I need hundreds and hundreds of referrals per month to make an impact. I ask most dentists, what's your best referral that you've ever had? They go, oh, I remember this guy brought in his wife and she $50,000 full mouth, reconstruction. I said, well, what if you had a couple of those a month, just in addition to what you're already doing? What impact would that have on your practice? So the minute we turn on good referrals, even great referrals, it has a massive impact on the financials of any practice. So the first thing I tell them is referrals has been a blind spot of the marketing world. Anytime I ask a dentist, tell me about your marketing plan, it's like referrals never gets mentioned. It's this area that, oh yeah, we love them, but I don't even think about doing anything about it to instigate it. So in my study, I realized that the facts and the statistics were enormous. So I broke referrals down into 4 subcategories, each with its own strategy. And I'd like to share that with you now, if that's okay.
That's great. Well,
Okay.
now I want to tease it because I want to tell you the story of where I realized the power of referrals, because I think it's a great story. So at my practice, Lake Minnetonka Dental, we would get hit up for ads just like every dentist all the time. And I knew somebody that worked at a local newspaper magazine type thing, and they were doing a wine tasting event in St. Paul, which is pretty far away from where I am in a
Yeah.
suburb of Minneapolis. But they wanted me to sponsor. And frankly, I just like trying stuff. And we had just signed up so that we could take a photo of somebody and do like before and afters. And I thought people would be drinking red wine. We could take pictures of their red stained teeth, show them what their white teeth look like, and we get a lot of people coming over, right? We had a booth. We had like 5 employees taking photos, and we saw hundreds of people that day. And frankly, we had all the wine glasses had our logo on it, right? So this was
Right.
but I was looking for new business, like what you're saying. What ended up happening was I saw 3 different patients that I'd done veneers on at that event. We
Hmm.
had 0 new patients come from the event, but those 3 existing patients ended up right after that event referring multiple people for veneers.
There
So
you
it,
go.
like I was halfway across all the way across the city doing a complete generating new patients, and all I got were massive referrals. And that opened my eyes up to the value of what you're about to talk about. So with that, I'd love to hear you break it down.
Great story. And I think that what I'm going to share with you will align with what you found. Great principles are universal. And there's some principles about referrals that when you start to build them into your business processes, into your staff training, into your culture, you're going to see more referrals. So referral number 1, I call a soft referral. And I call it a soft referral because they're not referring directly to you, but they're mentioning you. So this could be, they talk about you on a post on Facebook, they tag you on Instagram, they leave a review on Yelp or Facebook or Google My Business. So they're endorsing your business, but they're not endorsing it directly to one specific individual or individuals. Now, you and I know that many soft refer time gets you more business, because if you've got hundreds of reviews, positive reviews on Facebook, Yelp, and Google My Business, you know that gets you more business.
Absolutely.
Right.
I want to point out here too that because I think that people think of referrals online like referrals in person. I had one referral that I looked at on my website that was viewed a positive referral 1,700 times, right?
There you go.
That's while it's soft, it's massively valuable.
Absolutely. I call it a soft referral because it's not like, hey, Dr. Bryan, my brother's coming in. That's number 2. That's called a direct referral. Soft referrals, this is how we increase more reviews and more tags. When people come in, we would ask them, hey, how was your experience today with Dr. Bryan? They go, oh man, it's great, blah, blah. Great. Would you be willing to say those exact words online? Yeah, great. Can you leave the review right now? We integrated that question and process. And I took one practice from 50 reviews to almost 200 reviews in less than 9 months, just by making it part of the conversation by saying, are you happy? Oh my God, I'm so happy. Great. Would you say that on Yelp? Would you say that on Google? Great. Can you do that right now? So all of a sudden now, 9 months later, we've got 200 reviews. And the front office girl was like, man, we're getting so many calls from people finding us on Google and Yelp. Well, of course, because you have so many reviews, you've got the social proof, and you've told Yelp and Google, please rank my listing higher. So that will directly impact your business and your practice if you ask for soft referrals. Now, direct referrals is what you got at the wine event. You met somebody, they brought you somebody they knew.
Yep.
And the key to getting more direct referrals is to stay in front of your database. We can do this like you did at the event. You saw them face to face, right? You engaged with your database, your past clienteles. We can do that through email. We can do that through social media posts. We can do that through phone calls by reactivating, checking on them every 6 months. How's it going? I'm not ready to come in, but my sister is. You're going to get, if we just engage in contact continually, digitally, online, and in person through phone calls over and over and over, you're going to see more direct referrals. And the example of the wine event is a classic example. You were there in front of them, and what happened? Out of sight, out of mind. Now you were in sight, and now you were in mind, and you got referrals. That's the key to getting more direct referrals. And very few dentists engage their social media profiles and email lists with good content. Very few of them call their past files and re-engage them to get reactivations and referrals from their list. So put in those processes, you're going to see more direct referrals. Okay, number 3 are influencer referrals. Now, 5% of your database, 5% of your patients are influencers. Now, I know that normally we think of an influencer as some good-looking gal wearing a bikini in the Bahamas with 3 million followers on Instagram. But there's two types of influencers that most dentists can tap into almost daily. One's called a nano influencer. They have 1,000 to 10,000 people following them on social media. And then you have a micro influencer that has between 10 and 100,000. We have found that if you ask people when they come into your practice or you're at that wine event, you go, hey, are you active on social media? 1 out of 20 people will go, dude, like I am so big on TikTok, or I'm really into Facebook, or whatever their thing is, right? And the great thing about a nano and a micro influencer is, although they have a small audience, that audience is highly engaged. For example, I've got almost 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. Now, I'm not the Instagram model influencer, but by definition, I'm a macro influencer, and I get thousands of views on my content every single day. So when I mention a brand, right, I could potentially influence people going, I'll check that out. I never heard of that brand. Oh, great. Thanks for the video. If you just engage with your patients and go, hey, are you on social media? 1 out of 20 will do it. And now here's a chance to do that TikTok video with them, or to have tag you, or here I am with my dentist. Let's do a selfie with my dentist.
Right now, I have to tell you that every fiber of my being hates that you're right, but you're right. Like every other dentist, I bet 90% of the dentists out there are feeling like I am. Like, it's a great idea, and it makes me completely uncomfortable that that's the world I live in. Yet, how can
That's the world, but that is the world we live in.
That is the world we live in. You're right.
So Bryan, let's say we just once a day, because you got 20 patients coming in, just one of them happens to be a nano or micro influencer, right?
Yep.
And they post, and you do that 300 times a year. What kind of word of mouth does that build in your local community?
I'm just trying to resist saying that you'll get a whole bunch of patients who have very big egos. But no, you're right. You're right. No, I think you're right. It's a great idea. I think you're 100% right. And you see it happening. I mean, I see lots of dentists who are doing posts with patients in their practice who have influence. I see it all the time. And every time I see it, I'd be like, boy, that's a good idea. So I think it's a phenomenal idea. And frankly, it doesn't even need to be you with the patient. It could be your hygienist or your assistant.
It could be whatever, or then in front of your sign.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, I'm at the dentist. So whatever you're comfortable with, but I'm telling you, influencers are called that because they can influence more referrals your way. And so the essence of marketing is getting people to talk about you. And what better way to get talk about you than actually tag you on posts? And here's a person that potentially could reach tens of thousands of people in your community. That's huge. And you don't have to pay anything for that.
Totally.
It's free.
It's a great idea.
Okay, number 4. This is what I would call a co-branding referral, which is now you partner with other brands and it becomes an official relationship, kind of like, Coca-Cola, the official drink of the NFL, right? Or Subaru, the official vehicle of the US hockey team. So these co-branding relationships work because each person gets to tap into each other's audience, and you can have exclusive offerings or deals or whatever it is. Now, a dentist may think, well, I'm not Coca-Cola, I'm not the US hockey team. How would this work? Well, you can develop relationships with local universities, schools, other doctors, referring doctors. You can do it with churches. You can do it with synagogues, mosques, temples, business organizations, fraternal organizations. If we start to think outside the box a bit and go, who could I be the official dentist for, right? Or another way you could do it is you belong to Kiwanis, or you belong to these various business organizations where yourself or somebody goes, and now you're the dentist that gets to speak at that group. But these are co-branding relationships, or what are also called alliances, alliance marketing. How can you build alliances within the community? Example, that to a certain degree, that wine event was an alliance.
100% yes.
Right? So now you go, what other events could I be the only dentist or one of the few dentists at? And I start building alliances with the communities. And maybe it's just showing up and handing out wine glasses, or maybe you go to various events. I don't know if you know this, but you know how the Ultra Rich Network at charities.
Oh, sure.
golf tournaments, we're raising funds for the homeless kids or this, that. The ultra wealthy network through charity events. A, they've got the money to donate to charity, plus B, it's good for their PR. Like, I'm not just some capitalist pig that takes all my money. I like to help the community. It's good for their PR. What about building alliances with these various tournaments, with these various charities, and showing up?
I love the way that you talk about it as co-branding, because we've done quite a bit of that, but I've never thought of it like co-branding. But the label is great, because I think of, like, right now, all of these companies where there's the X, it's like Disney X Adidas, right, or whatever
Right,
it is,
right,
right?
right.
I don't know if they do that. There's but it's all over the place now, and it's kind of like hip to put an X to show that these two companies have come together. And oftentimes it's like things that make no sense. It's like, a company that makes refrigerators and a company and Porsche or whatever, like they come together and
Oh,
make, right? But so it's like that co-branding piece kind of takes your being the Plymouth Jaguars dentist as a different flavor to it that is, I think, is broader than the way that I was thinking about it before you put that label on it. So I
yeah.
think that's great. I think it's phenomenal.
Thank you. So I go over all these strategies in my free ebook. If you go to Branded Shareables, my book is called Referrology. And it's 30 pages. You can download it for free. It's, a 2 or 3 hour read. And I not only go over these 4 types of referrals, but then I kind of go into strategies of how you could start to implement these into your business policies, into your staff training. Because when you start to make it part of your process, imagine we took all 4 of these, Bryan, and every day or every week we worked on growing our influence on all 4. What would happen over a year's time if it just became a part of our process to engage with influencers, ask for more reviews, to put out great content in front of our database, to build corporate alliances? What would happen if we just continue to accelerate on all 4 fronts at the same time?
It'd be great. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your passion for generating referrals. It's evident, and I just love the perspective. For all the listeners, if you want to get more information, download the book and learn how to implement the referrals. Go to brandedshareables.com, and then there's a big button that says free that you can click on. Right?
Yeah, it's free stuff, and you just go to free stuff, and I've got the book there, and I've got a bunch of other stuff you can literally just grab for free.
Well, again, thank you very much, Edwin, for being on the podcast. Appreciate
Yes, thank you for having me.